Welcome to Grave Discussions. I am one half of your horrible host duo, Barnabas.
And I am the other hellish, horrible half, Samael.
Welcome, fiends, to episode 106,
Jesus.
The Mother of All Evil. I know, we could be at like 200 something.
COVID.
But, you know, it is what it is. I know, COVID, moving, etc. I just moved. But of course, we still got to bring you guys Grave Discussions episodes. We always love to discuss new movies and trending topics and such. And this one we've been waiting to do for a long time. It's a little overdue, but better late than never. Today we're going to be discussing Evil Dead Rise.
It's about time, man. When that shit when they announced the release date, all I could do was like count the fucking days. And then I emailed my boss. I took PTO specifically. I took 5 days off. And one of the days was the Friday that Evil Dead Rise came out. I watched it on a Thursday night. And we'll get into my thoughts about that a little later.
Yeah. I went day one. My wife and I went, and we had a great time. Just in general, we'll discuss the thoughts, of course, in a bit here. But I mean, it's not wrong to say that it's still like the number one trending horror movie out right now. It's gotten, let's see, over $133 million worldwide at the box office, which makes complete sense. I mean, it's been a decade since the reboot, if you will, and it's good to know that the franchise is as strong as ever, as popular as ever, and obviously is able to make a lot of money at the box office, which is fantastic. You know, it's been trending down a little bit, but still pretty popular, honestly. Let's see, I don't know where it is right now ranking at the box office, but I mean, it's still competing with Super Mario Brothers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and for a horror movie, that's very, very good.
Yeah, it's not that it's like not super common that a horror movie competes with like big time box office hits, especially something like, you know, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all I see being discussed on like the, you know, horror forums on Facebook and everything. So, and even in the news on like Bloody Disgusting, it just came out on VOD too, which is a huge boon for it. I mean, that, you know, gives a lot more people access to the film. So a lot more people are watching it. And I can only imagine the numbers it's doing on digital, right? So,
oh God. Yeah.
I mean, granted, you know, we watched it in theaters, but then I know our friend has it as well. He like bought it, so I might rewatch it pretty soon. But that's a whole other thing. But that's the big story in horror right now is Evil Dead Rise. There's been a lot more going on. We're not really going to get into the news because it's been a while since our last episode. There's been way too much going on, but I know some of the cool things that are going on are like they just revealed Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice 2. There was like a new picture of her, which is really cool, coming back as Lydia Deetz. Yep. And there were some other announcements for that movie as well, which I'm very excited for. And then I don't know, there's been a lot of like really cool trailers. Really pumped for The Last Voyage of the Demeter, that new Dracula movie with like the animalistic Dracula creature. I don't know if you saw that, but it looks very cool. What else? That new Boogeyman movie. I don't know how I feel about that, but
oh yeah, it's PG-13, so it might be like along the lines of like maybe like Insidious or The Conjuring, something like that. But also, Nicolas Cage is coming to Dead by Daylight.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, a lot of people were like hoping he would be a killer, and I was like low key hoping he would be a killer too. But I think he's like a survivor, right?
Yeah, he's for sure going to be a survivor. I don't know if it's going to be like Nicolas Cage from like Mandy, and then
I don't know,
or it's just like
I think it's just Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's Nicolas Cage in the fog. Okay, yeah. I can dig it. I mean, I love Nicolas Cage.
I don't know. That's going to be really interesting. I mean, obviously, having him as one of his characters maybe makes it easier to like craft his abilities and stuff like that. And personally, I would probably pick Red from Mandy, but I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I don't know if there are any more details surrounding that, but I'm fascinated by it. I have no idea who the killer like alongside him is going to be. That's kind of interesting.
Fucking Harvey Weinstein or something. That'd be some fucking shit.
Yeah, he has like a. I don't even want to get into that.
Yeah,
I don't even want to.
It makes me feel icky.
Yeah, but yeah. So lots of cool horror stuff going on, but of course this episode is about Evil Dead Rise. Before we get into that, though, I always like to check in. So, I mean, how have you been doing, man? What have you been watching recently?
Oh God, I've been doing good, man. Just got a promotion at work. Trying to catch up on stuff at the office because the previous person that was in my position hasn't been doing annual paperwork for her individuals. Hasn't been doing like quarterly meetings and stuff like that, and it's just a lot to catch up on. And I'm already like more than 3/4 of the way caught up on the shit that she was not caught up on. So there's that. Honestly, haven't sat down and watched a movie. Honestly, since Evil Dead Rise, I'm pretty sure I've been watching The Walking Dead since I never got like super far into it. Like the first time I watched the Walking Dead, I only got up to the season where the governor kills Herschel. Spoiler alert, whatever, you should have watched it by now.
Yeah.
But right now I'm on the very final season of The Walking Dead, and I'm getting ready because next month they're releasing Dead City.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm kind of interested in that, but yeah, I never finished the main series like past season 7 or something, and then I never watched Fear the Walking Dead. So at this point,
I never watched Fear.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm like, I don't really know about that Dead City. Maybe I'll check it out, but I'm not super invested. We're actually watching that Hulu series, The Great, with Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult, where it's like a comedic representation of like Catherine the Great's reign. It's actually a really good show. And then we've been watching some other stuff too. I got way too much shit I'm watching right now. As far as movies go, though, I've been trying to keep up on some. We watched some here and there. We actually just saw Renfield. So speaking of Nicolas Cage, how was it? We just checked it out. It was pretty fun. Yeah, pretty funny. Not my favorite. I pretty much expected it. I mean, when you see like martial arts action going on in like a Dracula spin-off, you know, it's kind of weird, but I mean, it was an enjoyable like popcorn flick, and Cage as Dracula, of course, fucking knocked it out of the park. I would love to see like a more serious like version of that film with Cage as Dracula, because he was definitely like the standout, but it was all right. It was okay. I don't think it's going to make like my top 3 or anything, but
no, as long as it's like a good popcorn flick, something you just sat down, smashed some nachos and enjoyed, who cares? You know what I mean? Like
that's definitely what it is.
I wouldn't expect a Nicolas Cage comedy horror movie about Dracula to be like, you know, trend setting or, you know, make a big wave.
Yeah, the actual plot was kind of whatever, you know, like because you got them and fucking Aquafina. She's like trying to take down the mob or something and gets involved with, you know, Renfield, and then Dracula's in the mix. It's like a really weird like narrative, but yeah, it's still pretty fun. And then other than that, I haven't been watching as much horror as I would like. I mean, I watched some new stuff. I just reviewed Clock for that website I write for now, De Facto Film Reviews, so you guys can go check out that review on there. And then I saw this new Shudder release called Huesera the Bone Woman, which is like a Mexican horror film about this woman who's going through like a pregnancy and then has a kid, and she's like haunted by this spirit. One of those, you know, it sounds pretty typical, but it was actually pretty decent. I'll probably do like a video on the YouTube channel about that, but yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Work is work, and you know, we just, like I said, we moved, so we're kind of still settling in, but it's a nice place. So
yeah, I just fucking mowed my lawn the other day during this hot weather, and I felt, at first I was okay and I was happy. I'm like, I'm mowing my lawn, it's gonna look nice. And then I started moving a bunch of like stones in like my front lawn, because like there's like 2 little like beds next to my porch that had like a bunch of like fucking just a bunch of like trees growing and stuff. And then I moved the stones and I like fucking mowed that. I mowed it on both sides of my porch, and all of a sudden my heart started like palpitating really weird. Not fast, but weird. And I was just like, holy fuck. And then like I sat down and like I could not like fucking for the life of me get my heart rate to climb back down. I had to sit down for like 10 minutes. So I need to start getting back into shape because
Yeah.
I don't want to die mowing my lawn. That's the worst way to, that's the least cool way to die.
You gotta lay off the crack cocaine, my friend.
Man, if I did cocaine, I would probably straight up like have like an immediate stroke.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. I mean, I've been there too. And like today we're supposed to go out to eat and I'm like, oh.
We got some drinks last night. I've been like, I've been trying to find my alcohol. You know what I mean? I've been trying to find which one is for me. And if you ever are going to get into drinking a little bit, like casually, try either a whiskey sour or an amaretto sour. They're like, they're pretty sour. So I guess you'd enjoy them and they're really sweet, but like they fuck you up really fast. But it fades really fast too.
I think I've had those before and they're okay. If I have a cocktail, I've actually discovered that I kind of like gin-based cocktails.
Oh.
Yeah, and but I don't have them that often. But in general, I'll just have like a beer. And I don't know if I've devolved or evolved because I no longer really like IPAs and shit. I used to be kind of into
you've
it.
evolved. You've evolved.
I think
past
I've evolved.
hipster.
And
no
now,
more hipster.
and now if I have a beer, I just seek out like a good quality like lager or pilsner or something like that, or like an ale, and then I'm just set. Like, and I only have a couple, so I try not to overdo it. You know,
dude. I like Michelob Ultra.
Yeah, that one's good. Stella or like, what's the Mexican one called?
Corona?
No, the other one.
Oh, Modelo?
Yeah, Modelo. I still go for the craft beers. I just try to drink like that style of beer. I'm kind of over like the fucking heavy shit and like IPA. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah, no. But anyway, so that's all that. But let's get into Evil Dead Rise. It's about time. So guys, we're gonna take a brief moment here. You can go take a piss break or whatever you got to do, and then
go jack off or something.
That's right, because we're gonna be ranting and raving about Evil Dead Rise for a decent bit. So we'll see you back here in a minute, and we're excited, man. We'll see you back here on Grave Discussions in just a moment. Welcome back, fiends, to Grave Discussions episode 106. This one's all about Evil Dead Rise, and we're about to get right into it. So, yeah, I mean, I know we already discussed how excited we were about this movie. You know, ever since I pretty much put you on Evil Dead in general.
Yeah.
It's become like one of your favorite franchises, and it's long been one of my favorite franchises. You know, I actually started out with Army of Darkness, believe it or not. I had no idea what Evil Dead was as a kid, but for whatever reason, this is weird now because my dad's like not super into horror, but we owned Army of Darkness on VHS, and I remember watching it as a kid, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was simultaneously hilarious, and you know, at the time, I thought it was like also pretty scary in some parts. And then years down the line, I discovered that it was like the third movie in the original, you know, Evil Dead trilogy. And then I watched like the first two and I fell in love with those and I thought they were incredible. And, you know, and then I really liked the 2013 film as well. And now a decade later, we've got Evil Dead Rise, and it's been a long time coming since that one. But as soon as this movie was announced, it got a lot of hype, and then the trailers came out and more information came out and everybody was really excited about it. And then in like the months leading up to it, I know we were extremely hyped about it, but I wasn't seeing as much hype in the community. But like as soon as the movie came out, you know, like we said before, it's been all the rage since then. And I think for good reason, although, you know, it certainly has its detractors too. So we're going to talk about that. And we're gonna talk about it in general, but then we're gonna get into some spoilers, of course, because it's gonna be impossible to discuss it fully without getting into spoilers. But spoiler free, I know that you sent me a message after you had seen it, or actually, I don't know if you sent me a message or if I saw you post a comment on Facebook or something, but I think you said you actually were a little bit disappointed. So I'm wondering, well, I want you to expand on that, of course, and if it's relying on spoilers, we'll get into that. But I'm curious about that. I'm curious if your opinion has changed at all, and just in general, kind of what you feel about it.
My opinion has changed ever since I sat on it and let it like marinate. And I just realized like it wasn't the movie that was like the movie itself. Nothing really like it wasn't bad like at all. But I felt like I was just way too excited and like I had high expectations, but like it's weird because like the movie did meet them. I think it was the ending. The ending is what like kind of changed my whole thing on it. It wasn't like the entire middle part was excellent. Like from the bathtub scene until the ending scene, like before all the way at the end when they were in the hallway. And then after that, like I feel like the ending soured it, but I thought the intro was great. The dialogue was like a little bit off because um, it was written by someone not from the USA, so like people calling each other sis or like auntie and stuff like that. That's not in our like hey cuz like we don't talk like that, but Australians and people from New Zealand do like they'll call their cousins cuz and shit like that. But that was like little shit. But I thought it was like I thought it was solid. Like now that I like honestly I've been thinking about I think about the movie every day and I try to like recall parts that I really liked, and like I can't really think of anything other than the dialogue and the ending that I disliked. So now that I finally like sat on it, like I get like why I was like disappointed, because like I don't want to go into spoilers. The ending, like I felt like there was no real danger to like the threat to like two of the main characters, and I was just like, I've already seen enough movies, but that's a me thing. That's not the movie thing. Like I already felt like nothing was going to happen to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like they were in any danger, and I don't know. For me, it was just the dialogue in the ending, man. Honestly, if I'm being real, like that's the only thing that was like a little bit of a turnoff, and the fact that like the demon didn't talk as much good shit as it did in the 2013 remake. Like when Mia was possessed and David's like, Mia, and she's like, come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy, like saying that to her own brother, and then he's like, Mia, and he's like, Mia's dead, you fucking idiot, your little sister's getting raped in hell. Like that shit was like, yeah, that's what a demon would say. Yeah. But in this one, it was just like the stuff like you stinking groupie and stuff like that, which like I get it's like I feel like it was unintentionally goofy, and that kind of like took a little of the oomph away from it. But like it's not bad. Like I initially was like, wow, that fucking sucked, I'm sad, but like looking back at it, it was just like I said, the dialogue and the ending that soured it for me. The rest of the movie I fucking loved.
Yeah I get where you're coming from totally. At first I was like, oh no, he like hates the movie, but I'm glad to hear that it's not like that, because I think there is way more to like about the movie than there is to dislike about the movie. I guess it depends where you're coming from. I wanted to talk about this later, but when I come across like user reviews and people on Facebook and other social media, I feel like a lot of the negative comments are from people who don't have as much experience with the Evil Dead franchise, and a lot of them well, there seems to be two kind of general I guess groups when it comes to the negative, and one is like the people who haven't really seen much Evil Dead, so they're like, it was kind of like goofy and like funny, and I wasn't like feeling that, I wasn't expecting that. And then of course you got the people like, well, it's Evil Dead, you've never seen the Evil Dead. And hey, some people haven't seen Evil Dead before, or like the previous movies, right? So maybe they're unaware that that's kind of like what it's all about. Like that's its shtick, is the kind of corny, campy combined with the terrifying, which creates this really kind of unique aura to the film. But and it definitely was that, like you were saying. But there are those people, and then there are the people who I think are comparing it which I understand, any new movie in like a franchise, people are always going to naturally compare it to what came out before it. I try not to do that, especially because while it takes place within the same universe, like besides that, I don't really see the need to compare it to the 2013 film other than like, oh, they're both, similar types of new Evil Dead films. So there is that. A lot of people are like, well, the 2013 one was, more brutal, and the Deadites were better and stuff like that. We'll go into that on our feelings about that. But those are like the main kind of negative comments I see. But in general, I find that like overall consensus is that people really like Evil Dead Rise. And I'm the same way, honestly. I really love this movie. I'm still kind of deciding how I feel about it in relation to like the rest of the franchise, especially the 2013 movie. When I came out of the movie theater, I was telling my wife, like, I think this one may be the scariest Evil Dead film.
I would have to say so.
And because I feel like the overall like tension and atmosphere in this movie is maybe not leaps and bounds better than like the original or the 2013 film, but I was a little bit more into it as far as like the suspense and the creepiness factor and everything else goes. And like the 2013 film also has that in spades, but there's just something about this one. I feel like it's even more claustrophobic. The fact that you've got kids dealing with their possessed mother just adds like this whole new layer of like creepiness to me, which I think kind of takes over like the 2013 film in terms of like scare factor. And just the fact that they're like trapped in this like little tiny apartment. I don't know. So I would say that. I know that's probably going to be a controversial opinion, but
no, I agree with it. I mean, think about it. The person that like is supposed to love you most in the world and protect you is now the person who is trying to kill you. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it brings forward this like taboo topic, which is like involving kids in this horrible situation, even like young kids, pretty young kids. And just like the single mom, and sure, Auntie Beth is there, but you always feel like they are in danger.
For sure.
Which for me, and like how they cultivated the atmosphere, this like dark, dingy, rundown apartment. I just thought it all worked really well. And then, of course, the special effects, typical for an Evil Dead movie, but still really, really good. So overall, I really liked it. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where I'd put it in my tier list of Evil Dead films, but I think it's like closer to the top for me. But that might be recency bias. I don't know. I still got to rewatch it a few times. But
for me, I would say Evil Dead 1 is my favorite because like it gets going really quick, and like it's not like funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like the second one. The second one was purposely funny. This one had a few instances with like the puppet that were like goofy, but like once Ash is all alone in the first Evil Dead and he's like going into the cellar, and then he like tries to touch the mirror, and then like the fucking liquid splashes at him out the mirror, and then like I don't know, it's like very like cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like the first one. And like the setting, the cabin is just so fucking creepy, and like it has like the same feel as like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like you feel like you're watching something that like
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be watching. Like, it's just legitimately scary.
Yeah.
And after the original Evil Dead, I would have to go with Evil Dead 2. I love Evil Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a completely different movie, but Bruce Campbell beating the shit out of himself, and then Henrietta, and fucking the Hillbillies, and fucking Annie Nobe, and Ed Getley, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just, I don't know, it was a solid movie too. And like
The chainsaw hand. I mean,
yeah,
the origin of that.
The origin of the groovy,
Yeah.
And then I would say after that for me is Army of Darkness, because you can't beat Army of Darkness. Like, it's so many quotables. The shop smart, shop as smart. Like, listen here, you primitive screwheads. Like,
Yeah.
like the fucking excuse me, Mr. Fancy Pants, when he was talking to fucking Henry the Red. I mean, that movie has like a fucking insane amount of quotables.
Good,
Honey, you
bad,
got real ugly.
I'm the guy with the gun.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. That movie is like fucking S tier, bro. That movie is S tier. So I would say I like the original because of how scary it was. I like Evil Dead 2 because like it's like it's the origin of like the Ash versus Evil Dead Ash.
Yeah.
Like that, like same feel. And then Army of Darkness is just bonkers. After that, I would say Evil Dead Rise, and then 2013 Evil Dead. 2013 Evil Dead was great, but it also had a few like moments, and I feel like it was like really like balls to the wall, but it wasn't scary. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, the only scary scene is when like the one blonde chick is like laying in the fucking cellar, and then possessed Mia like slowly comes through the shadows and like looks at her and then starts like cutting her with the box cutter and shit like that, and like vomiting in her face.
Yeah, that movie is definitely. I mean, I understand what people mean. I think that movie is probably more fucked up and disturbing maybe than Evil Dead Rise in terms of like how they in terms of body horror, I think more so, right? Because you know, you've got, I don't even see, this is bad because I don't even remember some of the side characters' names, but the one chick cutting her face with the glass, and then you know,
I think her name was Olivia.
Yeah, and then like the boiling water scene and all that shit, and like his girlfriend like cutting her arm off with the electric, like all that stuff. Like in terms of body horror, that movie probably does supersede Evil Dead Rise. I will give it that. And like it's still got good atmosphere, but I mean, is it as suspenseful and tense and actually scary as Evil Dead Rise? I would argue probably no.
No, it's not.
And I mean, I will give it this. Like the Deadite dialogue is probably better, yeah, but overall, I think I probably prefer just the goings on of Evil Dead Rise. So my rankings would probably be something similar, yeah.
And I guess like Evil Dead, the 2013 one was a little bit underwhelming because like the year before that they had just released like Cabin in the Woods, and then we get another Cabin in the Woods movie. So I think that skewed a lot of people's opinions too, because like Cabin in the Woods was supposed to give us like this meta explanation of why shit happens in horror movies, and we're just like, oh, they're in the cabin doing this because, you know, there's hormones getting sprayed and and watching the Evil Dead remake, the reboot, I could not help but think of all the stuff from Cabin in the Woods.
And I also kind of, I don't know, the apartment setting of Evil Dead Rise I think actually really works. I know it's not
way better than the cabin.
Yeah, I know it's not the Cabin in the Woods. I know that's the OG, but you know, I feel like that argument is not that valid because
we still had a cabin, but like they just briefly touched on it because it was like a little, you know, a little nod to the previous movies, like, hey, we're trying something different.
But
like,
there's nothing wrong with branching out. I mean, Army of Darkness took place in medieval fucking times in a castle. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And Ash versus Evil Dead, the series, like they went back to the cabin, but the actual series, the majority of it did not take place in the cabin, right? So obviously they're trying to expand the universe, which is what you have to do when you have like a long continuing franchise, right? I mean, fucking Phantasm didn't all take place in the mausoleum. It was basically a road movie series at the end of it, and they're trying to build this universe, which I mean, we'll get into it. I think it's probably a good time to get into the spoilers now. So
yeah, let's do it.
Warning, you know, if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it first of all, and then come back and finish up this episode because we're going to be getting into the spoilers. But I mean, I'll just go off of that. You know, here we see a very clear indication that they're trying to branch out by introducing 3 distinct Necronomicons, which I think is actually a huge plot point in this movie that I don't see that many people talking about, but I actually found really interesting.
Yeah, just like the 3 books in fucking Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I think I saw an article where they were theorizing that it was those 3 books. I'm not sure about that. I think it was probably what inspired it, but I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is, but these.
I mean, if you think about it, the original Evil Dead, it's the fucking. I mean, I don't know, because like in the original one, they didn't call it the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. They called it something else.
I think they called it that in Evil Dead 2, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2 and then the one after. And then in the reboot, they didn't call it anything. But in this one, they called it the same thing they called it in the original Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It was the
like the Book of the Dead, right?
Yeah, but it was like hold on. I'm going to do some research here.
Okay. But while you're doing that, but essentially there are 3 distinct books. One that's from the original trilogy, or really that originated in Evil Dead 2, since Evil Dead 2 is like a soft reboot of the first Evil Dead. And then the one from the 2013 film, which is different, and then the Evil Dead Rise book. So
Naturom Demonto. That's the one from the original Evil Dead and from Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because tonally, I would say Evil Dead Rise is closest in tone to the original Evil Dead. Like, just really dark, atmospheric. The demons are going batshit. They're stabbing people. They're, but it wasn't like outlandish and campy. Like 2013 sometimes got campy, just like Evil Dead. I would say Evil Dead 1 is similar to Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead 2 is similar to like the 2013, but then Army of Darkness is like more like the show. Like it's kind of just like outlandish. Like those are like the parallels I drew, at least.
Sure. Yeah. But I think there's some merit to that. I mean, obviously some of them just kind of stand out on their own. And then, I mean, if you really want to get technical, then you got like the first 3 are really more tonally similar to each other. And then you got to 2013 and Rise. But yeah. But I think it's really cool. Whether or not the 3 books are the ones from Army of Darkness are, a point of debate, but the director did confirm that, there are 3 books and that it's at least inspired by Army of Darkness, which I think is really cool. So that still opens up the possibility that, we could maybe see some of the other characters from the other movies joining up together, or at least that there is a possibility that we're going to go somewhere else and continue the story and expand the world even more, right? Which I think is great because, a series or a franchise like this, you have to do that, right? To keep it fresh and relevant. You don't need Ash. I mean, I know everybody's like Ash, and I love Ash. He's like my favorite character, but the fact of the matter is this, Bruce Campbell is too old now to be doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, all the time. Just straight up facts. I mean, probably even was for Ash versus Evil Dead, but I mean, at that point, it was like really the end of his story, and I'm still sad it was canceled, but that's another topic. But for him to be like doing all these movies, it's just not really feasible anymore. I know he said he would do it if Sam Raimi directed, and I would love to see that, but he's not going to be around forever, and the franchise is too lucrative and obviously still too much of a fan favorite to just bury it. So obviously they're still going to want to make movies, and in order to do that, they need new characters, new stars. They need to expand the universe and branch out from the cabin in the woods. So I know a lot of people are nostalgic about it. We've talked about this like so many times on the show, but nostalgia will only get you so far, right? And
yeah, because then you're just making a movie with Easter eggs and shout outs. Like, then, like, what's the point of that? What's the point, like you said, if you're not expanding, if you're not exploring things from a micro level to a macro level? Like, we've seen, like, what it looks like now. I mean, we've seen the details of, like, what the Necronomicon is about. Now we need these movies to expand upon the bigger picture, just like the show did, the Dark Ones and Ruby and all the stuff. Like, we need that for the movies.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they have, potential to do that. I mean, whether they want to try to get Jane Levy back as Mia, or
I would love that.
I would too. Or if they want to get Lily Sullivan back as Beth, or have them team up, or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. But the potential is there for them to take these characters and put them outside of their movies and have them do something else. Maybe bring back some characters from the show and mix it up and have it be this bigger event, right? Because I feel like that's where it's going, is that, you know, the movies are really about this isolated setting, which makes it creepier, yes, but, you know, the show showed us that it can expand and that it can be good as like this huge horror event. And I think it would be cool to see a movie like that.
I think it's going to be kind of like the show. Like, I think it's going to be like, now we do apartment building, and now we're going to do like, I don't know, what's bigger than an apartment building, right? A fucking...
like a city or something.
And then the final one in this trilogy will be called like Evil Dead Apocalypse, where the entire world is ran by Deadites. Just like... But then it'll get kind of Walking Dead-ish, so I don't know if they're going to want to do that.
I mean, they could just try to make up for like what was supposed to be the final season of the series and have it be in like the future.
And then Ash, Kelly, Pablo show up in it too.
That would be dope, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, but yeah.
Almost forgot about her.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think it's just possible, you know, now that they've introduced 3 different books, it's totally possible that they can just keep making movies, even similar to Rise, and just have like new characters show up. At some point, you know, it might get a little tiring, but if they have the right characters and the right stories, then I don't think it'll ever be bad.
I agree.
Obviously, you'll have people that are still always going to be like, oh, well, it's not the original, but
yeah, hey, let's be real. There's no bad Evil Dead anything.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to say. Like, everything is pretty consistently good to great, which is rare for a horror franchise.
I mean, look at all the rest of the franchises. Jason has some shitters. Yeah. Michael has some stinkers. Phantasm, I think, is solid. Phantasm is one of those other franchises, but it's more low key, and like, I feel like we were like ahead of the curve as far as like that franchise. Like, I think in the next 10 years, people will come to appreciate Phantasm more, because it's going to start getting like, I'm telling you, it always happens. We always talk about something on the podcast, and then it gets some sort of special release or like news about it. Have you noticed that? You remember that shit? Every time we would like when we watched Spookies, and then they like, I bought it from this like shitty website called like Monster Movies, where they like fucking just converted it from like a VHS to like a DVD. And now all of a sudden Spookies has this like 2K like reprint with like fucking remastery, and like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, I know that they released that box set where you get like the prop floating orb thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was after we discussed it or not. I feel like it might have been, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, regardless of what the future of Evil Dead looks like, I think this movie definitely sets that up. But let's actually talk about some of the elements more in depth to expand on what we were discussing before. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to this movie. So obviously it takes place in an apartment building, kind of akin to Demons 2. A lot. Yeah. I have seen some comparisons to that. And the comparisons are valid. I mean, they both take place in an apartment building. They both, consist of these demons in this like apartment complex. This one is a little bit different because it's a little more personal, right? That one, like, you have many demons as far as I can remember.
Yeah, it's just demons running amok. Just like, it's not like a controlled like setting. You know what I mean?
But this one is one floor of an apartment building, and already a pretty desolate one. Like, aside from Ellie's family, it's really just like one other older guy, and then I think like one other family that live on that floor. It's like a kid and his little brother. Yeah, exactly. And I think they have like maybe an older brother or the dad or something. But
yeah,
so there aren't really that many people, and as soon as shit starts happening, they get trapped on that floor. The elevator's busted, and even I think the door to the stairwell
is like him crumbling down.
Yeah. So, they don't really have a way out. It all takes place at night, which is fantastic. And, it's the one night thing, which is consistent with the rest of the franchise. Well, at least like the first 2 movies, and the 2013 film. But, I just really like the tension. I mean, I think the fact that they kept it to this one floor, kept it to a few characters, like less than 10 characters, is perfect. And I don't know. I just love the fact that they have this family being the ones that are going through this, especially the kids, right? All three of the child actors, I think, actually do a really good job. Especially, I really liked the character of Danny, played by Morgan Davies, who, fun fact, I think is actually a trans actor.
Was that the blonde one?
Yeah, like the blonde boy. Yeah. So I thought that character was great. The little girl Cassie also did a great job, and then Bridget also did a good job, particularly as a demon.
Oh my god, the tummy shit.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I thought that was fucking dope. Everyone was like complaining about the tummy stuff. I thought it was very unsettling.
Yeah, a lot of it was. I mean, like I said before, I know that the brutality maybe wasn't quite to the level of the 2013 Evil Dead, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't still brutal. I mean,
No,
the
because this one
fucking
didn't. This one really wasn't like body horror. A lot of it was like atmosphere and tension and like
yeah.
what the fuck's going on. And then honestly, the beginning, like I thought the fucking. Can we talk about that fucking like the cold open though?
Yeah,
Like
the scalping.
oh my
Her
god.
rising out of the water. That was definitely the coolest intro to an Evil Dead project.
Yeah, I think so too, dude. Like fuck, like especially like the floating out of the water and then the fucking big
Yeah, the
title screen,
title.
Evil Dead Rise. Like
That was awesome.
you couldn't come up with a better opening scene. I don't think.
No. That was really cool. The scalping was awesome. And then, I mean, I kind of assumed that it was going to be one of those like, oh, this happens after the events, but that didn't really bother me. I mean, it's a nod to the cabin in the woods, and it kind of gives you a preview of the crazy shit that's going to happen. So that was awesome. And then I really liked, the intro to the characters. You've got this like cool like tattoo artist, single mom, and her like three kind of like progressive kids. Of course I don't even really want to get into it that much, but of course people are going to go into like, oh, it's woke. It's not fucking woke.
It's inclusive. It's not fucking
Exactly.
woke. Imagine thinking because other people have representation in any fucking realm affects your fucking old stupid ass. Like, go fuck yourself. I hate people like that.
Same.
Like, bro, for how many fucking years have like LGBT people and minorities not had representation? Literally in the 1980s, all you see is white people in short shorts at summer camp. Like that's the whole 1980s, and it gets fucking old, dude. And then people are like, oh, they're shoving it down our throats. They're shoving it down our throats. Well, how do you think these people felt back in the day? They literally haven't had representation. And then just straight white motherfuckers constantly being in movies. They had no representation. And then when they finally do get representation at like sleepaway camp, like their representation is like a villain. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah. It really doesn't affect the movie at all.
It doesn't.
I mean, we get their personalities, and that's really it. And you could argue like, oh, well, why even... Just because that's who they are as characters.
Because
right?
in
These
real
people
life
exist. That's the
exactly
whole point.
because if you go to a random fucking household today in 2023, you go to like a big city like New York, where like or California or somewhere that's like progressive, and you go into any progressive house, like there's gonna be a black kid, there's gonna be a trans kid, there's gonna like get the fuck over it, like get with the fuck. People are so fucking out of touch, bro, and it makes me mad because this shit does not affect their lives at all.
Yeah,
At fucking all.
really.
Just let people have representation and let people be fucking happy. Like their gender and none of that was like even mentioned to us in the movie. It wasn't like they weren't sitting there talking about white cis males are the devil. Like nothing progressive was like even like really said about like any of the people in this movie. They were just regular people. They didn't like shove an ideology down people's throats. They didn't mention anything that was like woke. So like just like let people fucking live. Like it wasn't like, fucking like the Black Christmas remake where shit was like shoved down our throats.
Yeah.
This one was like, hey, there's these kids, there's these people, they're in an apartment complex, and one of the kids happens to be trans, and like they're really progressive. Like would you expect a poor family living in a fucking apartment complex to like be rich and like fucking blonde hair, blue eyes, fucking like
Right,
cisgender, like fucking like Hitler's wet dream? No, dude.
Yeah, and the fact that like these come off as pretty good kids, just makes the horror that much more intense too, because
It is, because they're so like wholesome. They're
yeah,
just sweet
you
kids.
have no
who,
reason
like,
to be like, fuck these kids.
no, you don't. It's not like the Texas Chainsaw fucking
Mhm.
sequel that just got released. Like,
Yeah,
like I
exactly.
fucking hated all those kids. I want to, dude, you're gonna get canceled. Like, see, that's what the shit people don't like. Like, don't be so fucking cheesy with it. But I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I cared about the kids. I cared. They're like, single mom is struggling. They're getting what? They're getting kicked out of the apartment or something, right?
Yeah, and they take care of each other. Yeah, they're well, the whole apartment I think was supposed to be like torn down or
Yeah,
something like that, or
exactly.
they're gonna get kicked out, and so they're struggling. They don't know where to go. Their dad just left, and obviously they're trying to take care of one another, right? I mean, both of the older kids try to look out for the younger girl, and then what happens to the mom is even more tragic because now they don't really have a mother, and all they have to do, the only person they have really to look after them now is Beth, who just kind of randomly shows up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the situation is definitely fucked. Like if I was a kid, that would be like my worst nightmare. And the fact that they are directly involved in everything that's happening, and especially that they themselves become demons and then end up fucking like undead is even more terrifying, because that's not something that is usually depicted in horror, right? I mean, sure, you have kids who die every now and then, but they're fighting off their possessed mom, and then eventually they like succumb to that and become demons themselves. Like that's
I thought
pretty
it was
fucked
really
up.
sad.
And that's
Like, they were already struggling,
yeah.
and now all of a sudden, like, it didn't occur to me, like, because, like, I just wasn't, like, thinking, like, when you get possessed, you're done. Like, you're dead. Like, you're not you
Yeah,
ever again. So, like, once the mom got possessed, I'm like, I
exactly.
wonder if they're going to try to, like, no, this isn't the exorcist. They're not going to exorcise her. They're going to have to murder her. So she gets
Hmm.
possessed. Now they don't have a fucking mom. Now their mom's trying to kill them. Like, the only person that they leaned on is trying to kill them. And then they start turning one by
Hmm.
one. And then I feel the worst for the little one, because she had to watch her only fucking family besides Beth, like, get turned into
Yeah.
demons and, like, just never be themselves again. And they were already struggling and going through all this shit. Like, it's fucking sad. Like, no one, like, thinks about it.
Yeah.
Like, no one's talked about it from that angle, but it's really sad.
Like, I don't even blame Cassie for like opening the door for her mom, in that one scene, which was a great scene, where she's at the peephole in the door, and she's like trying to essentially talk to her like her mother, like, let mommy in, like, I'm
Didn't she
still your
sing her a
mother.
song?
Yeah, she like sang her like a
Just like
lullaby or something.
just like Mia sung that lullaby that
Yeah.
her and David's mom used to sing to them in
Hmm.
Evil Dead.
But as a young child, and like that's your mom, like you probably could maybe tell like she just ripped this little boy's arms off and sent him propelling into the fucking wall
Yeah, that was
outside,
ridiculous.
which was
That was
crazy.
fucking crazy.
But like that's still your mom, and as a little child, like it's difficult to wrap your head around that, and like you still maybe have this notion that like, okay, like maybe like my mom is still in there, and like maybe that's still my mom and she loves me, so like I'll let her in. And then she like tries to claw your face off, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe not. But yeah, it's tragic and terrifying and sad all at the same time, which I think is probably one of my favorite things about this movie, is that it really like it doesn't hold back on that aspect, and then the fact that like all the other kids get taken in, and become deadites, is also like pretty fucked up. Well, not Cassie, but Bridget and Danny do, and then like the other little kids as well out in the hallway. So yeah, it just doesn't care. It's like, fuck these
Yeah, and
kids.
then imagine being Beth too, having to fight off your sister
Hmm.
and your fucking family members,
Yeah.
and like on top of it, like the little kids in the hallway, and like your family members are the little kids too, and like I said,
Mhm.
your fucking sister, and then you got to protect the one person that you do have left. Like, it's
Yeah. Now
it's scary.
it really is, and um, it still was pretty brutal too, and I liked the pacing of the movie, how it like the Deadite infestation kind of progressed throughout the film as well. I thought that was done well, and was still very, very tense and very suspenseful and creepy. I was going to talk about actually the the monster at the end. I don't want to jump all the way to the end, but since we're talking about the kids and the Deadites and all that, I think it's relevant. You know, I know you said that the ending wasn't your favorite. I agree and disagree. When I watched it, I was kind of like, I understand that they're paying homage.
They tried something new too. Like,
yeah, they tried something new with the creature, which when I kind of thought about it and I read something about it too, it was like, you know, that Ellie wanted them all to be together, right? So what better way for them all to be together as a family than to literally be together as one thing. But I did see a lot of people saying like it wasn't as effective because it was like this slow ass monster that was kind of easy to take down. But in the moment, I still thought it was like a pretty terrifying monster, even if the stakes weren't extremely high as far as like it, you know, taking out Beth and Cassie. I still think the overall look of it was pretty dope. Like it was pretty scary. And yeah, they tried something new, which they haven't really done anything like that in Evil Dead before. So I thought that was still pretty cool. And then the fact that they kind of paid homage to the 2013 film, I'm still not sure. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I think it's cool that they're paying homage to it and being like, hey, yeah, this kind of takes place in like the same universe, and this protagonist is similar to Mia in some respects.
Yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, I'm not sure if maybe they did that to say, hey, this is going to be like the character moving forward and Mia isn't really relevant anymore, or if it was just to show that like these two characters are similar in what they've suffered through. I guess we'll find out like when they make more movies, but so it wasn't my favorite ending in the world, but it was still like a pretty decent ending.
Yeah, I was just not a fan. Like, it would have been, I don't know, like the monster's look, I just didn't like it. It just looked like a fucking giant Ferris wheel of like fucking parts.
Have you ever, like, hold on, have you ever played or heard of that game? God, it's like, it's not, I was going to say Tamagotchi. That's not what it is. It's like, fuck. It's that game. It's a like Japanese game where you roll a ball and like you're collecting these like random like junk items to make your ball of like random shit bigger.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it. But that's essentially, it kind of reminded me of that,
Katamari Damacy.
I was having like fucking Society flashbacks, you know?
Yeah. That actually, that's a pretty good callback. Yeah. So I agree with that. I mean, I think it would have been maybe a little bit more effective if instead of that, it would just like, they were all just going after Beth and Cassie and kind of like divide and conquer, right? You've got like 8 different fucking Deadites coming after you. Like, that's pretty terrifying. But
it would have been a smarter strategy on the Deadites' part, you know?
Yeah. But then I guess thematically, it wouldn't have made sense.
No, because like, you know, they're all supposed to come together as a family.
Yada,
yada. Like, I get it now. And like, I just didn't like the design. Like, I think that was the big thing. Like, it was cool that they were all like one, but like, what? It's kind of like, what's the if it's like one deep demon controlling all these people? Why does he need to combine his like multiple like vessels into one vessel?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I tried not to think about it like in like, well, he could demon technically, we've seen it in the movies, they just fly through the air. He could have just possessed Beth and the little girl and made them kill themselves. Like, but it's like, do we really want to like nitpick that much? Because I don't, because that just fucking ruins, like, we got to disbelief and accept what's going on and be like, oh, this is how it is. And like, that's how all movies are. You always have to suspend disbelief. Come on, there's a fucking monster demon that shoved a bunch of parts together. No part of this exists in reality. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, you have to. And yeah, I just thought it was a little goofy. Like, that's all. But other than like the dialogue and everything, I thought the pacing was solid. Everyone was like, the movie took forever to like, I'm sorry, do you not enjoy storytelling? Like,
I don't think people do. I mean, it really didn't take that long from the cold open to like the kids leaving to get the pizza and then coming back. I mean, as soon as they come back and they find like the vault down there and find the book, like it didn't take that long.
I also thought that was a little goofy. Like, why is there like a bank vault that has the Necronomicon like underneath this apartment complex?
Yeah, I don't mind that much that they didn't like dive into why it was there, but I don't know. We could probably just assume that like some random person like hid it away. I mean, I think there was the recordings. Like, didn't they? Yeah,
Bruce Campbell was in the recordings.
Yeah, that whole, not to go off topic, but that whole scene with the recordings I thought was actually really, really cool. Like, it was extremely creepy. Like the way that the voices were on the vinyl.
And I thought that you had to like drop some blood on the book to get it open was pretty sick. And it had like the little fucking like little child safety lock on it, you know?
Yeah. That whole scene was very cool. And then everything just picks up right after that. So yeah,
for sure.
I don't agree. I mean, that didn't take place that far into the movie, honestly. So I don't see how people are saying like it took forever. The pacing was weird. I just literally think it's those people with goldfish brains who have like stronger ADHD than even we do. Like, just let things breathe a little bit.
Yeah, like let them unfold. Mm-hmm. Like if you just like, not every movie is gonna be fucking, I don't know. I mean, even The Conjuring didn't like start off and fucking go balls to the wall, and neither did Insidious. Like, these movies have a story to tell. That's what people don't understand. Movies are stories on the screen. You can't just be like, all right, there's a mom, now she's possessed, and now she's fucking killing people and ripping their arms. Like, where is like then what's the point? That's not a story. That's just like, this is what happened, and then it's like, I don't know. It just, not everything needs to be balls to the wall 100% all the time. Like, chill out, let stuff build, and like, once it builds, it's worth it. I mean, we saw it from this movie. Like, shit got crazy. Like, mommy's with the maggots now. Like, fuck. Like, shit. Yeah. I love that. I love that shit.
I mean, despite some of the dialogue being creepy, I mean, a lot of it, especially from Ellie, was great. Like, that line in particular was excellent.
Mommy's with the maggots. I love that shit.
Yeah. And there were some other good lines too. So let's talk about that real quick too. I mean, I think that the Ellie Deadite is top 2 or 3 Deadites in the entire franchise, including the show.
No, I 100% agree. Like, her facial expressions too. Like, she fucking nailed that shit. She was legitimately scary. She was the best thing about this movie.
That one, yeah, exactly. That one scene where she was like coming out from the hallway, like behind the wall, and she was like kind of looking off to the side creepily at them. I was like, yo, this is fucking,
she's so good.
Yeah, her character, I mean, for me is definitely what made the movie really, really intense and actually scary and creepy.
For sure.
And I love that they kept her like throughout the entire movie. Like, it could have been easy to kill her off like halfway throughout the movie or something like that, but nope.
Bro, the look on her, the look when she found out about the vent in the hallway,
that was
the look in her face, and she was just like, bro, I was like, oh shit.
It was just stuff like that. Like, this movie did a really good job of not relying on like too many jump scares. I think there were maybe a couple, but it was like her coming out of the hallway, the vent thing where like you could see Beth listening to the vinyl, and then she just crawls out of the vent, crawls on the wall behind her, and then like pops up behind her. That shit was like tense, that was so and good. Creepy as hell. Even like the scene of Bridget coming out with the bed sheet over her was definitely creepy. And I don't know, there were lots of other moments. That whole hallway scene through the peephole was great. God, I know I'm forgetting a ton, but yeah, there were.
Okay, we only watched it once. It's okay.
But there were a lot of those types of like scary scenes that didn't just rely on like dialogue, that were very atmospheric and in my opinion very effective. And a lot of it was Ellie, but some of it was also like the other characters, which was awesome. So yeah. I don't know.
I mean, overall, now that I let it breathe, like, and like was able to like, you know, think about like my biases and all this shit, and like not really let like the small shit like get in the way, because like, I mean, Scream 6 Cream, we enjoyed that, and that had some stupid fucking moments.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, I think this film is like, honestly like a solid 8 for me.
I mean, I think, and it could be a little biased, but I think on Letterboxd I gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 because I just really
Well, we are
enjoyed it.
Evil Dead fanboys, so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think a little bias plays into that, but I mean, in reality, it's probably like a 4 out of 5 movie, or like
yeah,
you said, like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe. But I mean,
honestly.
the good parts about it, I think, definitely outweigh the bad. Does it have flaws? Yes.
Of
You know,
course, every movie does. There's no perfect movie. I mean,
no.
even movies that are fantastic, like that we love, like Summer of '84 and Incident in a Ghostland and A Dark Song and The Possession from 1981. They all have something, but like, no movie's gonna be like, I liked every second of this movie. Like, it's ridiculous to think that like every horror movie can be perfect when it's really like one of the most like taboo genres anyway, and like people hate on it, and no one wins awards for fucking, no one wins Grammys or whatever the fuck they're called for this shit, or Oscars. No, I don't give a shit about awards, so I don't know about them.
Yeah,
but like it's one of like, it's the black sheep of like movies, of like movie categories, movie genres. So like we can't expect too much, but like when we look back at our favorite movies like Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, Friday the 13th Part 6, Halloween 1, Black Christmas, Reanimator, all movies had their some little things that you're like, yeah, no, I don't like that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't stop them from being great. I mean, the best things in the world are kind of dumb. Like look at pizza. Pizza's great, but like also like, why are we putting cheese on bread and then adding meat on top of it with like some tomato sauce, and then it's gonna make me have a violent shit later? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, not everything is like perfect and great and everything's fine and dandy. Like, everything has flaws, and that's literally the point. I mean, humans make these movies, humans star in them, humans write the dialogue. Like, you gotta like not take stuff so seriously.
That's right.
You can't be like all fucking anal about shit, and you can't be all jaded. Like, no, just fucking like shut up. And like, that's why I hate movie critics, bro. Like, people who are like, well, this movie wasn't. No. It's like, bro, shut your fat ass up. Like, for real. Like, nobody cares, you old ass man.
Yeah. I mean, and even as a movie critic, I try to approach it from every possible direction, right? I mean, if something is just literally awful, doesn't make sense.
Oh, for sure. Like,
boring,
fucking.
like, sure.
Like, if we're talking about some shit like fucking sickle once, sickle twice. Like,
oh, God.
Then, yeah, that's like obviously like bad, like, and stupid, and we can say it, but you could say some good things about it too. But like in general, like you could just be realistic and be like, yeah, this sucked, but it was like
in general, it was bad. Yeah.
Like, not,
but like, yeah, but Evil Dead Rise, you know, I mean, overall, it's a quality horror film.
It is.
Could you know, some of the violence have been amped up? Could some of the
I don't think it was necessary
demon dialogue?
For
it wasn't
violence.
necessary.
The violence was.
Like, could it have been? Sure.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have added anything. Like, think about it. The demon like calling her a stinking groupie instead of calling her like a fucking no good fucking whore. Like, what's the difference? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
I mean, it's something that like that's always been the Deadites thing, is like they target what
pisses you off,
makes you
like,
what pisses you off, your insecurities.
And her getting called a groupie
fears.
was one of the things that was like that she didn't like. So like, obviously he's gonna be like, yeah, you're a groupie.
Yeah, so I mean, it's those little things, but I'm not gonna sit here and say the movie's bad just because
it's not.
I think like some things could have been improved or whatever. But
this is actually, this is gonna be the first horror movie Blu-ray that I'm actually going to purchase in a long time.
Nice. Yeah, I also, well, when is it coming out? Is it already out?
When did it get released? Was it April or March?
The movie came out, let me see. God, when was it?
Because the way it's set up is whenever the movie gets released, 3 months later it gets released on physical.
Right. Yeah, I think it came out like April something.
So then just in time for our birthdays in July. Yeah,
and then it already came out on digital, so it should be pretty soon.
Late June, early July.
Yeah, I want to get the 4K. Like,
I do too, because I want to see if there's like any extra shit on there.
yeah. Yeah, that would be really cool. Especially if they do any like really cool behind the scenes, because in the months leading up to it, they like the director had released some really cool behind the scenes footage of like some of the audio and some of the, like the hallway scene with the severed limbs, stuff like that. And I think it would be really cool to look into that stuff. Even like how they did like the elevator scene, which was kind of, we didn't even talk about that really, but kind of almost a throwback to the Shining, with all the blood gushing out of the elevator.
Yes.
You know, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, the ending of 2013 was great because it was like the raining blood and the abomination and stuff." And you know, this one wasn't as bloody. I think it probably was as bloody. It just, there wasn't a scene where it was raining blood, but like literally there was an elevator full of blood that
Yeah.
had blood gushing out onto an entire floor of like an apartment. So like
And
it was still bloody.
and it was a nice callback, like the wires from the elevator, like grabbing her and like
That was the tree.
that was the tree
rape
that got
scene,
the tree that got Cheryl and the tree that got Mia.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, I love that they still kept it honest to Evil Dead, but still kind of did its own thing, you know. So I really like this movie. I definitely plan on rewatching it soon, and I don't really have too much else to say about it. I'm just excited to see what else happens in the world of Evil Dead in the future.
Me too, because I mean, it was, regardless of what people say about it, whatever shit they want to be nitpicky about, it wasn't as good as 2013. It wasn't as good as the original trilogy, because you have the old heads saying that too. Not only are they the ones like defending it, there's some being like, well, it's Evil Dead, what did you expect? There's like some of the old heads like, nothing's gonna compete with the original trilogy. We always have those people, but honestly, like, you just gotta accept things. Like, that's the problem with like moviegoers nowadays. Like, they don't accept the way shit is, and like that stuff changes, and not everything's gonna be Bruce Campbell saying groovy and holding a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, things change, things evolve, and we just gotta accept that. Not all of it's gonna be good, but that doesn't automatically mean that it's bad. So
I mean, this one was good, so I don't know. Like, I feel like the rest of it's gonna be good too, as long as it doesn't take like the Halloween route with fucking Corey Pogelmeyer or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't fucking remember. Corey, I don't know. I just thought of a funny last name. But.
Yeah, I agree. Well, all right, man. You know, I think that's going to do it for this episode. We're hopefully going to be back very, very shortly. I know that there's some, you know, pretty prevalent horror movies coming out in the next few months. So hopefully we'll be back very soon. But in the meantime, Sam, where can people find Grave Discussions online?
People can find Grave Discussions online at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and most importantly, at www.gravediscussions.net. If you're new to the podcast, you can check out our host bios and stuff like that. Check out our articles. We also have a bunch of previous episodes up that you can check out. Like, if you're, I mean, we've been busy. Like, so we've been doing this since 2018. Every movie that has come out that has been popular since 2018 is going to be on our website. If you like me and Barnabas's chemistry, you like our outlooks on movies, you like our dissections, professional and amateur, him the professional, me the amateur, because I did not go to film school. I'm just a horror lover and a nostalgia boy. So, I mean, if you go to gravediscussions.net, you can check out our host bios. It tells you how we got to know each other, you know, how we started up the podcast, our top 5 favorite horror movies, which we do have to update.
Yeah.
And all of our old episodes are there. So if you've ever watched a movie from 2018 up until now and you're like, I wonder what they thought about it, you can check it out on our website, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere.
That's right. Yeah. And, you know, if you have social media, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. I don't post as often because it's a lot to, you know, make like regular content on there, but we do always give updates whenever there's a brand new episode and any like pertinent updates. So please follow us, and then you'll know when we've got something new coming out.
And I was thinking we could, like, you know, since I got that little I got TikTok famous like not too long ago for sharing a story that happened to me. I mean, we can like do a Grave Discussions TikTok, and like there is a store here where I live, and 24/7. It has Halloween costumes, Halloween decorations, Halloween like collectibles. If you ever come down here, Barnabas, we are going to check it out because you will love it. There's so much shit. So much shit. I was thinking like I give them a shout out too. I'm probably gonna go in there with my like. I told them about it. Like, if you're in this area, you should check out this store if you love horror movies. Cause like they have, dude. Do you remember like those before Spirit Halloween? Remember how we had like Halloween USA and Halloween City? They have costumes in there from those back in the day when we were like 10, 11 years old. Yeah, unopened and shit like that.
That's dope. That would be a really cool place to check out, man. That sounds awesome.
It is.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. Yeah, hey, you might find us on TikTok here pretty soon. Oh, and then of course you can check out the Grave Discussions YouTube page as well. Right now,
Barnabas's Boneyard. Barnabas's Boneyard is dope. So make sure you check out Barnabas's reviews. I mean, and he does, outside of Grave Discussions, he does a few other things. If you want to tell them about that and where they can find your articles and your reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just well, I don't do them on Letterboxd that much anymore, but you can still follow myself and Samael on Letterboxd, for all those updates. But I do write for this Michigan-based movie review website called De Facto Film Reviews, and it's at defactofilmreviews.com. I have quite a few up there now. I recently just covered that new Ben Affleck thriller Hypnotic, which was all right. You can see that review. And apart from that, yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to write and branch out even more. So definitely check all that stuff out, guys, if you're interested. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, we will see you back here
on Grave Discussions. Your hosts are with the maggots now.